Welcome back. Chapter 16, Summer Hill, Virginia, 1970. Olivia woke when a bunch of pebbles rained down on her body. They were followed by the muffling giggles of two kids, then the sound of their running away. She didn't open her eyes. She knew she was lying under the big magnolia tree and that she'd been sound asleep. A stick was poking her in the back, but she didn't mind. The air was heavy with warmth and fragrance. For weeks now, she rarely left the kitchen and she was sick of it. Onions, tomatoes, cucumber. She wasn't sure she ever again wanted to see any of them. And it was all the fault of that boy. The way he raised gravestones without any help. Tore away briars with his bare hands. Built things, restored, repaired. It was all totally disgusting, and she had enough of him. With a sigh, she opened her eyes and looked up at the underside of the big, beautiful tree. Uncle Freddie said his mother had planted it, and that's why there was a statue of her under it. The kids said she was the queen of a planet called Athena. They heard the name from Uncle Freddie, and they made flower garlands to drape on her. Olivia knew she had to get up. She had jam to make, soup to cook, chickens to roast. Wonder what phenomenal things he'd done while I was sleeping, she muttered. When she started to lift her hand, she couldn't. What in the world? She tried to sit up, but she seemed to be tied to the ground. She gave a sharp tug to her arm and it broke away. Lying still on her back, she held up her arm and looked at it. There were about a dozen strands of various color of sewing thread over her arm. Slowly, she sat up. Each movement pulled thread away from where they were tied to clothespins that had been pushed into the soft ground. Her annoyance changed to amazement. How in the world had the children done this Lilliputian task? She'd seen a big illustrated version of Gulliver's Travel in Letty's room. Had the children tried to copy it? What the hell? It was his voice coming from the other side of the tree. I can hear you breathing, he said, so get over here and cut these off of me. She knew he thought she was the children. It's me. They were the first words she addressed to him that weren't hostile. Are you tied down? He gave a grunt of pain. Yeah, you? Olivia gave a few kicks, then rolled her body to the side and the threads broke. She stood up and walked around to the far side of the tree. Kit was sitting on the ground untying his ankles from purple knitting yarn. As always, he was as naked as he could get without being arrested, and there was yarn hanging off all of him. A bit of a laugh escaped Olivia. She looked up at her in disgust. He looked up at her in disgust. I know, more ridicule of the worthless boy. Olivia held out her arms and multicolored thread hung down from them. It's a batwing fringe. Think the style will catch on? Threads were also on her dress and around her ankles. At her joke, Kit leaned back on his hands and his face softened. Looks like they got you too. Bending, she used her nails to loosen the knot in the yarn around his ankle. How do you think those children did this without waking us? She sat back on the ground a few feet away from him and began pulling threads off her clothes. Kit was tugging at the pink yarn around his wrist, and when he couldn't loosen the knot, he held his arms out to Olivia. Hovering spacecraft. I believe anything of those two. I have to put cracked corn around the blackberry vines to keep them out of there. Warning them that the horns will make them bleed doesn't do it. Olivia was trying to get the knot undone, but it was too tight. She started to break the yarn, but Kit pulled his arm away. You'll hurt yourself. When he broke it, there was a red mark on his wrist. She was trying to pay no attention to being so close to his nearly naked body. Why cracked corn? To lure old Thomas to guard the tunnel. I made at the cost of a lot of my flesh. He stood up. He was speaking of the hateful, aggressive, bad-tempered old peacock that wandered about the place. Kit's glorious body was inches from her, and he held his hand down to her. She took it and stood up before him. It was the closest she ever been to him, and she could feel the warmth of his body. When she reached out as though to touch her face, Olivia instinctively stepped back. You have thread in your hair. She stood still while he pulled out several strands and took some off her shoulders. He stepped around her, removing pieces of thread from her clothes. Bending, he pulled 2 long green strands off her ankles. There. He stepped back to look at her. You are now back to being perfect. For a moment, they stood in silence, looking into each other's eyes. I guess I better get back to work, he said. Me too. Turning away, Kit took a couple of steps, then he halted and looked back at her. Or you and I could call a truce and take the afternoon off. I need to go into town to... Yes, Olivia said. Anywhere. Go is my new favorite word. Kit grinned. Come on then, let's move around the side. If any of them see us, they'll give us something to do. Or cook, Olivia said. What about... She nodded at his bare body. I keep clothes hidden in the well house. Right, she said, protected by the thorns, which are guarded by old Thomas. Exactly. Olivia followed Kit across the acres, and when he stopped behind big shrubs and tree trunks and looked in all directions, she did too. They were like a pair of comedy spies racing from one hiding place to another. The yarn monsters, he called them as he pulled another piece off his arm. How did I sleep through that? 3 weeks of sleep deprivation and nonstop work would do that, Olivia said as she ducked behind the sycamore tree. He halted beside her. We ought to stop. She knew what he meant. They should stop trying to outdo each other. When she nodded in agreement, they ran to the huge mass of blackberry vines. Most of the branches had long since stopped producing fruit and should be cut away, but they've been neglected for years. You better wait for me here, Kit said as he got down on his stomach and started to go through what seemed to be a tunnel. Because I'm a girl? Her hostility was back. I was thinking more of your pretty dress. He rolled over onto his back and motioned to the entrance. But please, be my guest. Olivia didn't want to go slithering on the ground, but she talked herself into a corner. She got down beside him, ignored the smile of delight he gave her, then worked her way through the tunnel. At the end was a small building with a door that barely opened against the vines. Inside, it was small with a window at one end. On a hanger on the wall was a freshly ironed, short-sleeved blue shirt and light-colored trousers. Slip-on Ouijans were on the floor. In the corner were half a dozen pillows that she knew used to be on the furniture in the big house. A few books were on an old shelf. Here and there were artifacts that had probably been found around the plantation. Arrowheads, shells, a teacup with a missing handle, a rusty sword that looked to be from the Civil War. Kit entered in silence and gave her time to look around. Now you see my secret hiding place, where I escaped? She well understood the need for such a retreat. Privacy wasn't readily available on Tatwell. Between the kids and the 2 old men, Olivia rarely had a moment alone. This is great. She sat down on a pile of pillows. I think I can go back to sleep. Kit was smiling, pleased that she liked his hideout. Do you mind if He motioned to the clothes. Olivia gave her best I'm a woman of the world shrug and picked up a book. It was a history of war from Russia's point of view. She pretended to read while superstitiously watching him remove his skimpy shorts. He had boxers on underneath, but she knew that since the fabric often peeped out, not that she looked. When he turned his back to her, she admired his deeply tanned skin. But when his boxers dipped down on one side, it took her a moment to realize that she wasn't seeing contrasting white skin. Good heavens, she thought. He's getting a tan all over. Somewhere on this old plantation, Christopher Montgomery was running around naked. He quickly pulled on his clothes, and when he looked back at her, Olivia was absorbed in the book. She stood up. Great, she said. You're clean and I'm a mess. I can't go anywhere looking like this. I can boost you up the rose trellis to get into your bedroom. His eyes moved down. His eyes moved down her in a suggestive way. Olivia couldn't help smiling. Thanks, but maybe when we go into town, we could stop by my parents' house. I need some clothes. Kit's face changed to serious. You want to introduce me to your parents? The lowest of the low? Aren't you afraid I'll contaminate them? She had to work not to laugh. It's Tuesday afternoon. Dad will be out fishing and Mom is at her bridge club. I should have known. His tone did make her laugh. After you, he motioned to the tunnel. How are you going to get out without messing up your clean clothes? That's a secret. Olivia got down and made her way out through the vines. The ground was damp, but her dress was already dirty, so it didn't matter. Turning, she watched Kit come out. He snaked out by using his forearms and his feet. His knees and his clean trousers didn't touch the ground. It was a moment she'd never seen before, and she was startled by it. To do that, he had to be in truly excellent physical condition. She followed him across the plantation, again going from tree to tree so they wouldn't be seen, to where the old truck was parked. Kit picked up a rock. Under it was a tin can, and inside were the keys. The kids haven't found my hiding place yet, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time. Smiling, Olivia got into the truck and they pulled out. When they reached the road that led into town, they looked at each other and burst into laughter. They had escaped. So why do you have this job? Kit asked. Since Uncle Freddie and Mr. Gates loved gossip, she was surprised that no one had told him everything about her. Well, I grew up in Summerhill. I'm a small town girl. We take what jobs we can get. Kit looked away from the road to glance at her. You're about as much a housekeeper as I am a gardener. Why are you here? She was pleased with what he said, but she didn't want him to see that. Actually, I do have another job, but the theater caught fire and it was postponed until the fall. Theater? When Olivia was silent, he said, Are you going to make me guess? She shrugged one shoulder. In Richmond? Not quite. She put on her haughtiest look. Something local. Did you get the lead in a play about a history of Summerhill? Oh my gosh, no. She saw that he was teasing her. On Broadway. Where is that? Virginia? North Carolina? She sat in silence while she waited for him to realize what she meant. His eyes widened in a very gratifying way. Oh, that Broadway. Olivia smiled sweetly. The very one. For the rest of the drive, she told him how she won the lead role at the auditions, shared an apartment with her co-star for the rehearsals, and finally, how the fire had caused the delay. He pulled into the driveway of her parents' house, turned off the engine, and looked at her. I am impressed. Really, I am. Now I see why you were so angry when I got there. The way he said that made the blood rise in her cheek. I guess I was, a bit. Are you kidding? That first day I was so scared of you I couldn't say a word. I was afraid of what you'd do to me. Anybody who can sail over the cabbage like you did has to be dangerously strong. I was worried you might. Her look made him stop. Laughing, he got out of the truck. Olivia walked away with her nose in the air, but she was repressing a smile. It was so good to hear humor. For weeks, all she heard about this guy was how hard he worked, and she seen his body. She never once thought he might have a brain or a personality. As it always was, the front door to her parents' house was unlocked. Inside, she looked around as though seeing it for the first time. She and her mother had decorated it. The current style was for bright colors and wallpapers painted on aluminum foil. But they had stayed with the subdued colors of sand and cream and the pink of an early morning sunrise. She still liked it, but she had never before noticed the many photos of her around a long living room. Kit didn't say anything but began walking about the room and looking at the framed pictures. Her parents had insisted that she have a professional shot done in every costume she wore for a play, whether in high school or college. In one, she wore a short pixie cut for Joan of Arc. She wore a nun's hood for a high school play. Her favorite was a snapshot when she had on a flat-top newsboy cap, her face solemn. She'd been home from school for the holidays and listening to her dad when her mother took the photo. Kit picked the picture up and looked at it for a moment before setting it down. "Beautiful and talented," he said softly, his voice even deeper than usual. Olivia waved his compliment away as though it meant nothing, but she was quite pleased. "I'll just get my clothes, then we can go into town." And she wasn't sure what they'd do. She hadn't meant for him to go to her bedroom with her, but he followed her down the hall. Telling him to stay out seemed too provinical. She reminded herself that she lived in New York, so middle-class morals were beneath her. Her room was in the same colors as the rest of the house. The walls behind her bed was papered in a very subtle pink and cream stripes. She and her mother had a crisp exchange of words about Olivia's insistence of putting the paper on only one wall, but Olivia had seen it in a magazine and was adamant. The pictures around the room were prints of impressionist paintings, Renoir, Matisse, and Degas. As she opened her closet door, she glanced at him. He was standing in the doorway looking very serious and seemed to be studying what he was seeing. He looked like a director trying to decide if this was a good set for the scene he wanted to shoot. With his hands clasped behind his back, he came into the room. Hold on, y'all. I want to see how many more pages this is. I don't know why. After carefully observing, "I have decided that in spite of your common ancestry and your father's lack of prominence in an unremarkable town, I will consider you as my companion for the evening, perhaps even for dinner." Olivia's jaw dropped nearly to her chest. When he picked up a copy of the script of Pride and Prejudice from her bedside table, she realized what he was doing. He was playing a version of Darcy. She kept the look of horror on her face. "You insult me, my family, even my ancestry, yet you believe I will go out with you? Sir, I will never set foot in your company." Kit stiffened. "You say this because of what you have been told about me? Let me assure you that it is the wicked children who have taken away my dignity with their purple woolen chains of humiliation. It has taken no chains to show your overweening pride. Your lack of garments, even to fawning about in a near nude, brings your own disgrace." Kit opened his mouth to reply, but he couldn't hold back. He started laughing. "My mother would agree with you, but I..." Olivia waited for him to continue, but he said nothing else. He sat down on her cream-colored chair. "I was thinking of buying some bikes for those rapscallion. I don't know. Hold on one moment. My daughter's calling." Okay, I'm back. "Rapscallion kids. Anywhere around here I can get them?" Olivia pulled a jumper and 3 blouses out of her closet and put them on the bed. "Trumbull's Appliance can order what you want, but otherwise you need to go to Richmond or Charlottesville. That's the same way we do it where I live." "Oh," she said in an encouraging way. "Waybrook, Maine. The town was founded by the ancestor of mine and is full of my relatives. If we don't want to marry a cousin, we have to go out of state." "And what if you do want to marry a cousin?" What the hell? She pulled out a Bill Blass pantsuit, off-white with gold buttons. She was tired of wearing worn-out dresses all the time. Maybe one evening they could use the big mahogany table in the dining room. That's as likely as you're going out with the kid who delivers the propane." "I don't know. Alfie's kind of cute." "He certainly thinks you are." There was venom in Kit's voice. "And the guy who said he stopped by to see the old man couldn't take his eyes off you." Olivia looked at him startled. He was frowning deeply. "Oh, that's Ted. His father owns the furniture store. I hardly know him." Kit didn't reply, but he seemed annoyed. He got up, mumbled something about seeing her later, then left the room. Olivia stood there for a moment. What in the world was wrong with him? She tossed a blue jacket by Pierre Cardin on the bed, then pulled out a red jumpsuit. It had a halter top and wide legs with a small waist. Maybe they'd have a picnic under the mahogany tree. She got a excuse me. She got out a few more items, some jewelry, a few pair of shoes, then pulled a suitcase from under her bed and packed. She took her time doing it as she didn't want to give him the idea that she was in a hurry to go into town with him. When she finished, she sat down on the bed. She needed to think about what she was doing. She knew she was extremely attracted to him, but it couldn't possibly go anywhere. In New York, her castmates had tried to look on the bright side of spending the summer waiting for the play to begin. A summer affair seemed to be what most of them planned. Summer jobs, summer sex, one of them said. Olivia had wanted to seem as worldly as they were, so she agreed. But a summer affair with a teenager? Then what? Break his heart when she went back to New York? When he was 50, would he talk about the famous actress who ripped his heart out? That wasn't something she wanted associated with her name. The sound of voices drew her out of her thoughts. No one was supposed to be home. Who in the world had he invited into her parents' home? She entered the living room just as her father and Kit came in from the hall that led to her father's study. Since he'd retired from banking, he indulged himself in his love of ancient history, even to writing a few papers. "There you are," her dad said. He was shorter than Kit and a bit slumped from years at the desk, but he was still handsome. "Your young man has been telling me about his life in Egypt. He's even invited your mother and me to stay at his parents' house in Cairo in January." Years of acting lessons helped her hide her shock at hearing this. "Oh, how nice," Olivia managed to say, then added, "He's not my young man. He's only 19 years old." "Oh, I see. My mistake." Olivia glared at her father. She knew when he was laughing at her. As for Kit, his eyes were also laughing. "Are you ready to go?" she snapped. "Or do you want to stay and discuss somebody's tomb?" Tutankhamun's tomb, which you probably helped build. Mr. Paget looked shocked at his daughter's rudeness. "Actually," Kit said, "I did see his tomb. It was open for just a few hours and my father came to get me out of bed at 3 a.m. to go see it. I was 10 years old and it was all very exciting." With each word, Mr. Paget's eyes widened. Does it? "Could you get my suitcase?" Olivia said to Kit as she went to the front door. Once she was outside, she wanted to kick herself. What was it about that boy that brought out the worst in her? When he was around, she seemed to go through every emotion: anger, laughter, lust, a feeling that she had to win, all of it so strong that they nearly killed her. And she had to admit it, sometimes jealousy. Why though? The kids, Uncle Freddie, Mr. Gates, and now her own father seemed to adore him. He could do no wrong. They seemed to think he was brilliant, entertaining, a hard worker, and now it looked like he was a world traveler. A house in Cairo. Not Cairo, pronounced Cairo, Illinois, but the real one. Pyramids, Sphinx shot up by the Turks. Really? Was there no end to the boy's good qualities? He came out with her suitcase in his hand and put it in the back of the trunk. He started to go around to her side to open the door, but she did it by herself. Kit started the truck and headed toward town, but then he pulled over beside Mr. Ellis' cow pasture, turned off the engine, got out, and opened her door. "We need to talk." Olivia looked straight ahead and didn't move. "If I have to pick you up, I will." She got out of the truck, but her expression let him know that she didn't like his attitude. His attitude? What about yours? There was a gate nearby and he motioned to it. They walked together for a while until they came to a pretty rock formation. Olivia had been to it many times when she was a child. Stepping back, Kit held out his hand. He was motioning for her to sit down. For a while, they sat at the yard apart, silently watching the cows grazing in the field. I grew up all over the world, he began. My father is in the diplomat service. He worked his way up from being a kid who carried the briefcase of some major to begin a traveling advisory. If there was a problem in the Middle East, he was often called in to fix it. My mother followed him everywhere, and she dragged her 3 kids with her. I'm the youngest, so I've been to more countries, been exposed to more cultures and languages than they have. For a while, Olivia didn't say anything. It seemed that he was saying something very serious. Should they give free rein to the strong emotions between them and pull back? Stop it before it started? I have a career ahead of me. I've worked for it since I was a child. And I have something waiting for me too, he said. She gave him time to tell her what he was going to do, but he didn't explain. She knew he wasn't going to say any more. We'll be friends, she said, and he nodded in reply. So be it, she thought. Or as he had said, as you wish. They had set boundaries. They hadn't openly acknowledged their attraction to each other, but in a way they had, and they were in agreement about it. Now was not the right time for either of them. They had lives ahead of them, and they didn't want them interrupted. Friendship was their destiny. What's the big secret about Ace? Kit asked. And what's the kid's real name? She turned to him. No one told you? Kit shook his head. I've been working rather a lot, so I've not had time for chats. Me too, she said. But Cock or Vin can't compete with single-handedly raising old tombstones. They told me you were doing a better job. Looking at each other, they laughed. It seemed that the old men had been playing them against each other. Their shared amusement cleared the air. Olivia took a breath. Ace's name is Kyle Chapman, and his mother is dying of ovarian cancer. His father is the town's only doctor, and between patients and his wife, he can't care for the child. And besides, Ace needs Letty. Oh, that poor boy, he's so young. You're not going to look at him with pity, are you? No, Kit said. I'm going to. He turned his head away. When she heard his breath catch in his throat, Olivia reached out and took his hand. I think we need to act as normal as possible. Maybe tie the 2 of them up in a tree with purple yarn. He looked back at her, and when he held her hand tighter, she pulled it away. They were 2 alone in a beautiful setting to risk touching. I vote that we give the children the best summer they ever had, she said. Lavish them with gifts, Christmas every day, that sort of thing, he asked. Absolutely not. First of all, we need to get them back for tying us up, and I think the attic is haunted and old Thomas is from a planet called Xenons. With each word, Kit's smile widened. I like how you think. I don't know about you, but I'm starving. Didn't I see a tea shop in town? Let's drink a gallon and eat pounds while we come up with some scary things to do to those 2 brats. And I want to order some bikes. Can you afford them? Olivia put her hand up. Let me guess, you're rich. He stood up and held out his hand out to her. That's just one of many bad things about me. Did you bring your script? Can I play Wickham and run off with the girl? Lydia is an idiot. Taking his hand, she stood up. He leaped off the rock, then put his hands on her waist and swung her down to the ground. Remind me to call my dad to tell him he'll have a couple of visitors in January. Would they really do that? You can't imagine what it would mean to my father. Do you have to take a jeep to get to the pyramids? Ha! They're across the road from Mena House Hotel. There's a highway that runs right past the pyramids. He'll be disappointed. Don't worry. There are lots of places that will fascinate him, Egypt is magic. He opened the truck door for her and she got in. Kit walked around the back of the truck so she wouldn't see his smile. Friends, he thought. Ooh, excuse me. That's what she wanted them to be. And if that's what she needed right now, he'd give it to her. As for him, he found the woman he loved and would always love, and he was going to do whatever it took to get her. He'd just take his time, go as slowly as she needed him to. And when the time was right, he smiled. She wouldn't know what hit her. And that's the end of chapter 16. Okay, why is Olivia jealous of this guy? Like, for real? Like, why is she envious? Why is there competition between him? Is it because she come from New York? I mean, her career not ended, but it's on pause, and she's back in Virginia. But I still don't get why she feel that way towards him. It's not making any sense whatsoever. Unless she don't know how to maneuver her feelings and her emotions for him. And this is the best she can get. And my aunt mentioned she is she is about 3 years older than him. But he has a lot more experience than her. Could that be it? I'm just not understanding her. I just don't understand that emotion with her. And she's seeming kind of, uppity. Maybe she is. I don't know. But I was getting ready to say something, but I lost track of thought. But anyway, if it come back to me, I'll put it in the definition video. There was one word. I'm not sure if I pronounced it right, but stay tuned for the definition portion. I shall see you there. Okay, welcome back to the definition portion. The word is spelled Rapscallion. And this is how it is pronounced.
Rapscallion.
I think I said rapscallion. Not sure. It's a noun, a mischievous person. And it's in the chapter as... He sat down on her cream-colored chair. I was thinking of buying some bikes for those... Rapscallion kids. Anywhere around here I can get them? Okay, yep, makes sense. So that's the end of the chapter and the end of the definition video. It didn't come back to me, so I shall see you in the next chapter. Bye for now.